Came to court and told on me. Put that on something. I sold my soul, homie. Called the highway patrol on me, plus the sheriffs and cops. He told him my name was Eric and I carried a Glock. Soon as you start blowing shots, them niggas going to tail. Don't have a meeting with the cops and then you going to jail. They'll tell him about the shooting, take him, show him his well. DA trying to see your cash, they gon' throw him the nails. They wanna throw me up in the cell and have me with a L again. Back to strip searchers and guards, read my mail again. Have me far away in the bay, I'm talking Pelican. Eating cold ass soy burgers and warm gelatin. I'm far too intelligent to fall for that twice. Niggas yelling gang gang and ain't about that life. And they'll turn rat right in front of your face. Get you found guilty plus 100 years on the case. Your mama in the court with tears running all on her face. Her baby shackled feet, hands and waist. Goddamn.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a pro violation. Yard down. Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. During those times, I accumulated some good stories. I'm going to share some with y'all today. If you happen to like the video, be sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. Most importantly, hit that notification bell. That way, anytime I drop a story, you will be notified ASAP, and you can hop on it whenever you're ready. Yeah, like I keep telling y'all, man, the flow is nothing like Curtis Blow. Yeah, that's me gassing on the intro, man. I know it's been a minute. I've been procrastinating, dropping my music, but my music will finally be released sometime this month, man. I'm hoping like maybe around the 24th, the 25th, maybe before then, you know. But anyway, I keep y'all updated. But let's hop right up into this video, man. So yeah, y'all see the title. Who do blacks beef with the most in prison, right? And it's been, in my experience, that blacks beef with other blacks the most in prison. I know a lot of times people get hyped up, or they get more interested in when you have blacks going at it with the Southerners. But for the most part, man, you know, blacks beef with blacks in prison the most. And that, at least that has been my experience, right? Like I told you guys, I've done 24 years straight, and in all the prisons, and I'm not talking about the county jails, in all the prisons that I hit, I have never been involved in a racial riot against the Southerners. And actually, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I've never even been in any prisons that had a racial riot with the blacks and the Southerners on any yard, with the exception of in Ironwood, like maybe around 2003, somewhere around there was a riot between the blacks and the Southerners on B Yard. And that riot on B Yard didn't spread to any other yard, you know. So unless I'm mistaken and not remembering correctly, like I said, the whole entire time. And that's for them. And I'll give you guys a lot of reasons or my opinions on why is that, you know. But like I said, man, in my experience, I have probably either seen what I have seen and been involved. I have either seen and been involved in probably more than at least 15 to 20 black on black riots, or sometimes and they're just melees. But the way the prison, when they write it up, they'll word it as a riot. If it's like more than maybe like a 3-on-3 or a 4-on-4, they'll word it as a riot. But sometimes it's really more of a melee and stuff like that. But when we're talking about either riots or melees, I've seen Crip versus Crip. I've seen Blood versus Crip. I've seen Hoovers versus the neighborhood, Long Beach versus the Long Beaches, Fresno versus the Bloods, IE versus the Bloods, IE versus the Compton and Watts. I've even seen, in my later years, I've even seen Blood versus Blood, either little riots and melees, which was extremely unusual when I first came to prison, you know. And I'm not talking about DPs, you know. I'm talking about, you know, riots. I'm talking about basically things that broke out at the spur of the moment, or, you know, may have been brewing a day or two, things that was not necessarily, you know, sanctioned like a DP, you know. And I've even seen, you know, man, in-house riots among many cars, you know. When I say in-house, like let's just say you have the Inland Empire functioning as one car. And I've seen where cars will get into it with themselves on the yard, because a lot of times, even though you may have people in prison functioning as one car or one entity, a lot of times that car is made up of an alliance of different gangs on the street. And you'll still have dudes within those alliances who don't necessarily like other dudes. Sometimes you'll have alliances in prison who aren't necessarily cordial on the streets or who have got into it. I've even seen you have dudes in prison who are from the same particular hood and may have grown up together. And this dude may not like that dude. So it's always things going on, and so I honestly want to say, with the exception of the East Coast Crips, I have pretty much seen all gangs have riots or small melees among themselves, and that's just what it is, man, and it just depends on sometimes what prison that you may go to and who's there. And that's going to dictate how the structure of that particular car is being ran. Like, for example, we know that, or for those of you guys who follow the gang culture, we know that, you have a lot of these gangs who beef with each other. And initially, let me just say this too. Initially, when I first started doing my YouTube page, I had no idea that my YouTube page would get as many followers as I have now. I had no idea that my stories, I'd have a combined views of the amount that I have now. So initially, when I started telling the stories, I would just tell the stories as they would happen. I would use real names, all real hoods, this and that, because like I said, when I first started off, I only had a couple hundred subscribers. And so I had no idea that, my stories would be viewed. But what I learned by doing that is, regardless of if what I'm saying, is 100% correct, when you have individuals who hear about, when you have gang members who hear about some of their homies or their hood or the flag they represent taking a loss or taking an L, or one of their homies getting knocked out, they become upset, regardless of even if it's 100% true. Nobody wants to hear about, their hood being seen or possibly being seen in an unfavorable light. And the fact of the matter is, you got everybody take losses. You can't name me one hood that's been around more than 5 or 10 years that doesn't have people who snitch from that hood, who don't have homies who've marked out, who've done things that's not considered favorable in the gangbanging world. Still in all, people, due to the fact that they have an emotional connection to wherever they're from, they tend to get upset. And so that's the reason why I stopped, for one, using real names. And then that's another reason why I stopped telling riots between large different gangs altogether, because I told a story about when the IEs got into it with the Bloods. And the story was probably about 20 years old, man. And I was just surprised at the amount of animosity and hostility that some people who wasn't even there, the amount of rage it seemed they took in the comments, so so that led me to stop telling stories, because I got to keep, I have to keep in mind that you still have a lot of these hoods out there on the streets, beefing, going at it with each other. And so maybe to tell a story, and a lot of these gangs sometimes that I'm talking about, they have a long history of beefing. And so, even in the slightest way, me mentioning that the dude from this hood did something to the dude from that hood. Now, you may have an individual on the streets who hear that, and that may be all the motivation he needs to, go put some work in or go do something. And so I, like I say, initially I didn't think that my stories would get around like that. But once they did, I thought it would be a little bit more responsible of me to, to try to change some names and this and that. But I said all that to say, we know a lot of these different hoods have sometimes a long history of beef. And so it just all depends, like now we know in Long Beach, for instance, you have the Rolling 20 Crips, and they have been beefing for quite some time with the Insane Crips. But I have been in prison on yards where the Long Beach car, the Crips, the Insane Crips, and the Rolling 20 Crips, they are in unison. Then I've been on other yards where they're not in unison and stuff. So I've seen, I've been on yards where, you may have the Compton Crips, the Hub and the Dubs, they'll have an all-out beef between, dudes who are from Compton and the Hub and the Dub. And it's been like this with many sets, like I said, with the exception of I've never seen the East Coast Crips get into it as a whole with each other. I've seen maybe a dude from East Coast get into it with another dude from East Coast. But with the exception of them, I've pretty much seen all these different hoods who have alliances in prison have in-house beef with each other. And so, the reason why I believe that you're going to have blacks get into it more often with other blacks is mainly, and first and foremost, is because they interact with each other on a daily basis. And so when you have dudes who are gang members, the mindset of a real gang member is an alpha dog. That's the whole concept of a gang, man, that my gang is bigger and badder than yours. I'm bigger and I'm badder and I'm tougher than you. So a lot of gang members, they have a problem with authority from anybody. And due to the fact that, of course, we know if anybody who follows the prison genre, the blacks are definitely less structured in prison than I would pretty much say all other groups. You have other races and other organizations who have certain protocols in their way of operation of it's against their protocols to have unsanctioned violence on somebody that functions in the same organization as you, meaning that anytime you see other races being violent, it has already been approved from the higher ups. And that's not the situation with the blacks. Like I said, you'll have a lot of spontaneous spur of the moment violence break out, with blacks. And one of the reasons being, like I said, is because you interact among your people the most. And so, of course, also when you are interacting with gang members who have sometimes these authority issues, these I'm tougher than you attitudes. And then you have some dudes who feel like, due to their immaturity and want to be viewed in a certain light, they don't want anybody to say anything to them in terms of, anything that may even have them feel, because of their, I guess, their gang banging immaturity, that, oh, that dude checked me, So unless it's a respected older homie or somebody from their hood that they respect, you may just say the smallest thing to another individual and he'll take it the wrong way. And a lot of times that'll lead to, violence. Or sometimes you have dudes in there, and even though everybody claims to be a gang member, a lot of times gang members don't respect other gang members. If for whatever reason they happen to get the idea or the notion that, you are soft, you're not as hard, you will have gang members try other gang members, because of course, being in prison and being in a gang is definitely a predatory type of lifestyles. And yes, gang members do prey on other gang members if they feel they are weak. And so that's a lot of times the reason behind a lot of violence too. You may have dudes in there doing dealings, whether they're illegal in prison or illegal. And if a dude doesn't keep his word or feels that, okay, you know what, I tell this dude, hey man, let me get $20 worth of store, and when I go back, I'll pay you, man. When I go back to the store, and then when it's time to go back, they just flat out don't pay him. I told a story one time where I seen some dudes in Salinas Valley betting on they was betting on handball. They was playing handball, One dude thought that he could beat the other dude, So the dude who, of course they betting, so they both think that they can beat each other. But the dude who ended up losing, when they, I think they got up to about, $50, $60 or $100 or whatever it was a high sum, man. The dude looked at the other dude and said, boop, pop, beep, boop. Put that cold 3-piece on him. Said, man, I don't pay no suckers. Knocked him right down on the yard. So that let me know right then and there that dude had no intentions on paying that dude anyway. So in his mind, it was a win-win situation, because he felt that he could beat the dude up. And so he felt that, okay, I'll beat him in handball and I'll win his bread. In the event I don't win his bread, I'm not fit to pay him anyway. So once he bust the dude up, knocked him down on the yard, and this was in Salinas Valley on D-Yard. Then they went into cell and had a fight, and then he beat the dude up again. So obviously, he didn't respect that dude anyway. The dude who knocked the dude down happened to be from Long Beach, and the dude he was knocking down was from Orange County. So not to put any type of slight on the dude who was from Orange County, but like I've said many times before, you will have certain gang members from certain areas, and just by a dude specifically being from an area that's not necessarily known or equated with a lot of violence or the amount of violence that another individual is from, he will automatically put this dude's cripping or his blooding on a much lower level than his. And a lot of times, it'll take dudes to get in fights, dudes to stab people, dudes to do certain things before other gang members will automatically have respect for you. And so that's just the nature of gang banging, and that's just the reality. I think that anybody who's black, who has done a decent amount of time, will tell you that he has seen more riots and melees that were black on black than he has seen in any other race. 2 times while I was locked up, the whole 24 years that I was locked up, man, 2 times I seen the Southerners get into it with each other. That was obviously not sanctioned. I seen a small riot in Ironwood, which I believe it was between some Serranos from San Diego and some Serranos from Los Angeles. Then another time on a level 2 at Chuckawalla, I seen two youngsters have a fist fight, and they immediately took off in the corner somewhere and got disciplined. But a lot of people out there may think, well, you know what? Why don't the brothers doing time in prison, why don't they realize, man, that, you guys would be stronger together? And that's an extremely, extremely good question. I think as with each generation that passes, man, obviously in prison, the blacks become less and less structured. I know by the time I paroled, you had gangs who were alliances. When I first came in, they was beefing and no longer hanging with each other, due to so many different sets getting into it with each other. It definitely weakens the ties. And then so you have dudes who come in prison with a attitude of, man, listen, man, I don't mess with those dudes. It's extremely different, man. From when I first came into prison, it seemed like the blacks who was already there, Crips and Bloods, they definitely had more of a sense of blackness and togetherness than they did when I left. So simply due to being black, whether you was Crip or Blood, initially when you first come to prison, man, another dude is gonna embrace you. Another black dude is gonna embrace you, whether he's a Crip or he's a Blood. He gonna find out where you from. He gonna tell you, man, hey, your family is over there, your people is over there, this is where your car is hanging out. Even if you have to move into the cell with a Blood, for the first 2 or 3 days until you get situated, they had no problem doing that. And like I said, it was so much more unity among all the black gangs, in terms of just, okay, that at the end of the day, that dude is black. And now I don't think it's like that at all, So that's the reason, or at least some of the reasons, in my opinion, while you will have more black on black violence, at least with the blacks, you'll have more black on black violence, more blacks getting into it with blacks as opposed to getting into it with any other racial group. But anyway, man, you already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.
90% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. 2 choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in they Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Diego Pyrus, the hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters gon' move. Whatever click you choose, you better